Um,
Hi, Neely. I'm recording.
hey,
Um,
cool.
so the big question is, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
I feel actually fatigued and satisfyingly sore. So all the things that I was hoping to feel. And yeah, I think that I've actually enjoyed taking the week off from running. So it was, I guess, second time's the charm.
Yeah, I feel like satisfyingly sore is a term that only a runner would ever understand.
Right,
And
exactly.
for you to say that you feel fatigued, because I always think of you as like the Energizer bunny, that you're one of those runners with boundless energy. You're like my kids.
Yes.
The weird thing, yeah, like the energy never runs out. So
It's so funny you say that though, because they used to call me the Energizer Bunny in high school. So it's, yeah, I think that's definitely been like a coined term that I've been told many times over the years. And yeah, I mean, when I got home on Saturday night, my husband threw a surprise party, and obviously I'm like stepping a million steps ahead, so we'll go back and
yeah.
start at the beginning too. But yeah, everyone left by 7 o'clock, and I fell asleep putting my kids to bed. And so I was definitely very tired come Saturday night. And then Sunday we watched the Super Bowl, and then we got home, and obviously it was a little bit later. And I fell asleep putting the kids to bed again. So yeah, I would say that it felt really good to actually be tired and
Yes.
ready to just kind of veg out for a little bit.
Yeah, like a good kind of tired. Like I did amazing things and
Yeah,
now my body's recovering, which
totally.
yeah, it's like a satisfying tired versus like God, like I hate the gosh, I'm so exhausted. Why am I so exhausted? Or yeah. Okay. So let's back up. You ran the trials and you ran a 2:37, you finished 42nd. Um, and it's not necessarily the day that you were fit for. We'll get to that. And so then you turn around and a week later win the Mesa Marathon and run a 2:35, which is just insane. It's just insane, especially like as someone as for me as someone who's like been, battling injuries for many years, it's just like it's hard for me to wrap my head around like how can someone do that and like come out unscathed. So, can we back up to okay, you're in Orlando, you're running the trials. Can you kind of rehash what happens that day?
Totally, yeah. So, I my family and I went to Florida for the month leading in to the Olympic trials, kind of for multiple reasons. So, first off, we did the same thing 2 years ago. When Rome was 6 months old and Athens was three and a half, my in-laws winter in Orlando. So
Oh,
we spent
okay.
a month with them 2 years ago in Florida, just getting out of Colorado for the winter. As a mom, one thing that I have found to be extremely challenging is the cold, dark days that never seem to end during the
Yes.
winter in Colorado. And so we kind of knew that this was our last opportunity that we could do that because Athens starts kindergarten next year.
Okay.
So um, we wanted the kids to have that experience. We also wanted to have that break from the winter. Second, obviously, training here in the winter can also pose a lot
Yeah.
of challenges. And third, the heat prep for a marathon can really only be successfully done in the similar environment.
Yeah.
So, for all of those reasons, we spent the month in Florida, which was really fun. We did some really cool stuff, made a lot of memories with the kids. My husband has a hybrid job, so he was able to kind of fly back and forth. And then I had the help of my in-laws. One of my good friends, Rochelle, stayed there with us, and she and I ran together every day. So it was a really nice
It sounds like a
escape.
dream. It sounds amazing.
Yes. So that part was huge. It was very successful. And I honestly went into the trials feeling pretty good. I'd put in some decent sessions, had, one of my best long runs I've ever had down there. I practiced my fluids during that long run. But I think on race day, the difference between a long run effort and a race effort definitely made a difference in how my stomach handled fluids. And so it was probably the warmest day that we had the entire
Oh,
4 weeks.
really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And so it ended up being warm, decently humid, and very sunny. And so there's a difference between, starting at 65 degrees at 7 a.m. and starting at 65 degrees at 10 a.m. when the sun is much higher. It just felt a lot warmer. And so I started off with like a very conservative plan of I'm going to, run within my fitness. I'm going to be very cautious with the pace early on, recognizing that the heat is going to create that increase of cardiac drift a lot quicker. And I'm also going to take fluids early because I know that as I go, it's going to be harder and harder to get those fluids in and to get them absorbed. So they, for the elites, typically in races, there's bottles like every 3 to 4 miles. And so for the Olympic trials, we had 6 bottles total that we could turn in, but 3 of them were in the first 10 miles. And the next 3 were in the final 16. And so I kind of had just broken it down per bottle, kind of going through my usual routine, not recognizing that they weren't spaced evenly. So I ended up getting in too many fluids in the first hour, more than what my stomach could handle and absorb. And the faster you're running and the warmer it is, the harder it is for your stomach to take those fluids.
You don't have that blood flow.
So it was just like kind of 3 things went wrong in that regard. And I ended up feeling like I paced myself well, but the fluid intake, I had gotten in too much. And so my stomach was cramping and I felt very nauseous and like pukey from mile like 11 to the finish. And I kept hoping like, okay, maybe this is just a phase. Maybe it'll go away. Maybe I'll puke and then I'll feel better. And so I would like run. And then the faster I went, the more intense that feeling got. So I kind of had to be like, okay, the main goal is to finish. So I have to stay more conservative than what I had hoped. And then someone would pass me and I'd be like, okay, go with them. Like, see if your body will respond. And then it wouldn't respond. And then I'd have to like drop off and like, okay, go back to, kind of just shuffling along. And so it was just this very conflicting thing because mentally I was really ready to go. And physically my body was like, you can't go. But my legs could go, but my stomach couldn't. And my heart rate was like very low. It was like 10 beats lower than what it typically is when I'm racing. So it felt like I was just kind of out there like doing a, steady state tempo-ish effort. And then by the end, it was kind of like, I'm literally just running marathon or like
easy
long run during this marathon. And so it was a very frustrating thing. But then because I couldn't take in fluids or gels or anything, then I was concerned that I was going to bonk because I went 16 miles without taking in anything.
Oh, wow.
So then I was being very cautious of like, okay, I know the faster I go, the more I'll burn through glycogen stores. So it just became this like very frustrating internal battle. And for me, the main goal was finishing. Like I said that from the beginning. I've never successfully finished an Olympic trials. So this was my fourth time, and I was going to get to that finish line no matter what. I had to do it a lot more conservatively than what I had hoped. And so I finished, and I puked my guts out at the end.
You did. Oh man.
And then I like walked to find my family, and they were like, is everything okay? Blah, blah, blah. And I guess my tracker stopped working at like 18 miles. So all these people thought I dropped out. And I was like, no, I'm at the finish. I'm fine. I'm just really annoyed. Yeah, I was like, I feel great now that I puked. And so I ended up, meeting with a couple of my athletes who had come to cheer, and some friends and family and everything. So we were all hanging out, and I'm chit-chatting with them after. And I was like, it was so frustrating because I just had this like tug of war the whole time. And it wasn't the experience I wanted to have. And like, had I just gone out hard and then been like, oh, the heat's getting to me, I'm just going to back off and keep my effort chill, I could have still enjoyed it. But I couldn't enjoy it out there. I was having no fun at all, because if you're nauseous and feel like you're going to puke, like no one's having fun then. So I was just frustrated because I love running. Like running is so special to me. I do this for fun now. Like this is not my, main like source of income or anything like that. Like this is just a passion. And so it really felt sucky to me that like I couldn't have at least enjoyed the time out there. And I was proud of myself for like battling it out and finishing. So anyways, we went and did fireworks that night. And then the next day we took the kids to the Science Museum in Orlando. And I'm like crawling around on my hands and knees and like doing all these, things with my kids. And I'm like, I don't even feel like I ran a race yesterday. I feel like I just did a long run. And I was like, this is so frustrating. Like, this is really annoying to me that like I put in all this work and then I basically just like did a 26-mile long run. And so we flew home on Monday. And it was great to get back. And honestly, I got a ton of stuff done on like Tuesday and Wednesday. I was super productive. But by Wednesday, I was like, I kind of miss running. Like I just want to start running again. And usually I'm someone that's like, I super enjoy my breaks. I finish and I'm like, all right, I'm going to rest hard. And I'm going to take, 8, 10, 14 days off until I'm ready to like, okay, yeah, let's get back to it. And I was like, I only took 3 days, like, and now I feel totally fine and want to run again. Like something's off there. And so I was doing my pre-race calls with my athletes who were racing Mesa. And, I was chatting with them and I was like, okay, like good luck. And like, I know it's a downhill course, but like I've run CIM and that one's downhill for some of it. And then when you hit the flat, like if you go too hard on the down, like you're definitely going to really feel it. So you have to kind of find this balance. And, we're kind of talking through all the strategy of pacing and whatnot. And then I got off the phone and I was like, I wish I could go run Mesa. That would be awesome.
I can't believe you hatched it this late in the game. Like I was assuming that you finished on Saturday and you were like, okay, I need.
No, it gets better. No, it gets better. So, I kind of just like let that roll by on Wednesday. I'm like, okay, I'm just being like, silly, and that's not in my best interest, right? Like to your point, that's actually pretty risky to do like back-to-back races. I mean, I think it's even risky to like run the week after a marathon. Typically I'm like a full week off, like, your body really needs to recover from all the pounding. And so Thursday, Dylan and I are driving the kids to school, and I was like, I don't know. I just have this idea that like, I wish I could just go run another marathon. And he's like, you should. And I was like,
and he's still your coach, right?
He's my coach. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. So our partnership with coaching is like, It's very much, I'm very involved in the process. It's a lot of just discussions. This is
Mhm.
what I'm feeling. This is what I need. This is where I feel like I have a weak spot. I felt really strong here. I want to build from that, etc. This is what I want to do this week. Like, what are your thoughts? So we kind of just like talk through coaching. Um, and that's been really nice because it's very intuitive. Like my running is
Oh
just very
yeah.
intuitive based on how I'm feeling. He trusts me to share accurately, where I'm at and my effort levels. He doesn't provide paces or anything like that. It's like, okay, we want this at half marathon or want that at 10K or, whatever. And then I go run to that effort. Especially living at altitude, everything's effort based to begin with because
Okay.
paces, have to be adjusted and whatnot. Um, and so I was totally expecting him to talk me out of it and be like, oh, come on, you need to be really happy with your trials race. Like, you finally finished. I'm super proud of you, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, Neely, you do this for fun. Like, if you want to go run another marathon, go run another marathon. He's like, you've been super healthy. You don't have any aches or pains from the trials. And like, if you've recovered well, like, why not go do it? And I was like, okay, well, I have to like look it up and see if you can even still like register or any of this stuff. So on Thursday, I'm looking that up. I'm like, okay, I can still register. I'm looking up flights. I'm like, okay. And it's an hour flight to Phoenix from Denver. Like
Okay.
it's very easy.
I figured it
Um,
would.
yeah. And so I was like, well, what's your schedule? He's like, I have a meeting till 3 on Friday. I was like, okay, so do you think you could take that meeting from home? He's like, yes, it's a Zoom. I can take it from home. So I'll be done at 3. I was like, okay. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to do anything tonight. This was on Thursday because clearly, like, if I register and I book a flight, like someone's going to wake up with the flu tomorrow or
Right.
something.
Yes.
So I was like, if everyone's healthy Friday morning, I'll enter. So we all wake up Friday morning and everyone's fine. And so I get on and I register Friday morning. So we're like less than 24 hours out from the start of the marathon.
I cannot believe they let you register that late. Like you think they would
I
have
know.
That's
I
crazy.
was shocked. Yeah.
Very
Obviously it was like
fortuitous.
a hefty cost.
Yeah.
But it's fine. So I registered, I booked a flight for 5:30 that night. And then I dropped Athens off at school. I took Rome to the gym so that I could do a little jog on the treadmill. And then I packed up and Dylan walked in the door and I was ready to head out and I left the house at 3:20 on Friday, flew, got in at like 7 something. And Rochelle, my friend, she was running the 10K. So she was able to pick up like my packet and everything for me. And then I was able to stay with her. So that was also a big piece of the puzzle that like made the whole process a lot easier.
Uh-huh.
And so got in that night, went to bed, woke up at 3 and headed to the start line in the pouring rain to do a
Was it
marathon.
pouring? Okay. Yeah, I knew it was raining. I had an athlete run too, but it was looking like it was going to be drizzly. I didn't realize it was like downpour at the start.
Yeah, so the whole like waiting for the bus ride, it was like pouring. Like everyone had like just trash bags over top of
Oh,
them.
that's misery.
And like bags over their shoes and all these things. And I actually, because I was only going for, less than 24 hours, I only took like my training shoes and then my racing shoes. But then I realized when I'm like standing there in a massive puddle in my training shoes that I don't have other shoes to wear like home.
Oh,
And so I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to like fly back after the race in like my soaking wet shoes. But Rochelle's Airbnb had a dryer. So when we got back, I just threw my shoes in the dryer and dried them so that then I didn't have to squish around for the rest of the day. But yeah, it was pretty rainy. The whole bus ride up. It was drizzly when we got to the start. It kind of started to clear up a little bit. And you start in the dark. They like end up delaying our start right after we took off like all of our stuff. So
because
we're
of
just standing
weather
there
or
I think there was just some logistical stuff. They
Okay.
had like they were still waiting on buses and
Got
people to
it.
get to the start lines. And yeah, but so we ended up being delayed like 20 minutes or so. Um, and so, just stayed loose. Like I just was there to have fun and I didn't care about pace. I didn't look at my watch once. I just ran on feel and I felt really good until the last 4 miles. And then it started to rain again and it got really windy.
Oh,
And all my muscles just started to be like, and we're getting really
yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, get to the end now. Um, and we finished and I was just like, all right, we got to get out of here. Like I need dry clothes. So we didn't stick around for awards or anything like that. Because it was just downpouring
Oh,
and quite
yeah.
chilly. But I felt, very like I mentioned at the beginning, like satisfyingly sore once I finished. And then I went back, showered, grabbed a bagel, and then they dropped me off at the airport and I flew home at 1 o'clock.
Oh my goodness. So when you signed up, you didn't do any recon. You weren't like, oh, I could win this race or anything. You just were like, I need to be satiated. My body needs to run a marathon. So I'm gonna hop on a plane and go do this and be home and within 24 hours, basically.
Yeah. My heart just wanted to have fun racing. Because I just, like I said in my Instagram post, like I was just surviving, not thriving at the trials.
Yeah.
And for me, like I really love running and I love racing. And so I just wanted to close out the season with like a reminder that like I actually do like this. Because I'm registered for Berlin. And so it just felt like a really long time
Yeah.
between the trials and Berlin to get the chance to run like that distance again. And since my body was ready and my mind was ready, I was like, I don't know, why not just go for it? So yeah, it didn't really matter. Honestly, I was like, I bet you there's probably someone else who like, DNF'd at the trials or like didn't have their day that's gonna show up. Like who knows? Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't go at all with like a pressure to like try and win. Obviously, getting the win and getting, all of my last minute travel expenses covered is really nice.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the main focus. The main focus was for me to just like
Just to have
go
fun.
out and have a good time.
Oh,
Mhm.
I love that so much. I wonder if you would have puked like during the race, how that would have changed things.
I wondered that too. But then it kind of dawned on me that even if I puked up like
Then
all
you
the
would be
fluid that was in
completely
my stomach,
depleted.
then I'd be depleted and then I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have wanted to take in anything else anyways. So it probably would have ended with me bonking and feeling worse than
Yeah.
like what I ended up feeling. So honestly, and then I was like, it's one of those that we have no idea. Like even if I had done the drink early, drink often, and it had worked out for me, maybe the heat would have gotten to me later. Like there's so many factors that we really don't know what would have happened. I think that my plan for pacing and had the fueling stuff gone according to what I had hoped it would, my expectation for where I feel like I could have finished probably was around 20th, given what other people had done on the day,
Yeah.
kind of what pace felt appropriate for my fitness with the heat in that first 10 miles. So yeah, I suspected I would have been, right around 20th. And in all honesty, if you zoom out, like there is no difference getting 20th or 42nd at the
Right.
Olympic
You're
trials. It
right.
doesn't get you anything other than just a personal thing that, I was like, I think I can be in the top 20.
Yeah.
But top 3 go to the Olympics, top 10 make money. And outside of that, it's just have your race and for me, the victory was finishing.
I
And
think,
whether I was 20th or 40th or 150th, it wouldn't have mattered. That, box was something I needed to check off.
yeah, I love that you like for you, it was so much about just like having fun because with running, you will be continually dissatisfied if you look back and think, well, what if this happened, or what if this happened? Because there are just so many variables, and every time you line up, like, that's the risk you take. That, I went all in, I did everything I could, I worked hard for months and months and months, made so many sacrifices, and it could not go my way because of one tiny, like, because I had to drink a bottle, 2 miles sooner than what was optimal that day. It's like, you have,
Yep.
you have to take joy in the process, the day to day. And because if it's all about the outcome, you'll just always be wanting for more. So
100%. Yeah, and I'm definitely someone that I I really just love running. I love training. I love the challenge of it. I I find a lot of joy in just the day to day.
mhm.
And I race from time to time, but racing isn't my main focus. Um, and so for me, I don't know. It was just that, like, the idea popped in my head. My gut said go with it, and I did.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking back, when I saw that you ran, I told my husband, it was like, she seems to do well with a short taper anyways. Just going off of, like, in 2020, when you basically had a 6-week marathon build and you had like a 1-week taper, and then you qualified for the trials. Like, I mean, I love how in tune you are with your body. I love that you train by effort. And I know you said that that's common in Colorado, but, like, I just, I don't know. I just love that your training is so much dictated by intuition instead of the data, the metrics, what other people are doing, what you should be doing. And you really just, like, home in on what is best for Neely. I think that's
Yeah, thank
awesome.
you for saying that. I appreciate it. I do think that I did taper a little bit too much going into the trials.
Okay.
So that's actually something that I'll plan on adjusting for Berlin. I find that I think I do prefer a 2 week instead of a 3 week
Mm,
taper. And so in Orlando, so in Colorado, like, I run on soft surface every day,
yeah.
like maybe 1 day a week if I'm like planning on doing, specific workout that I really want to get on the roads for, I will. But in Orlando, it was kind of the opposite. It was like 1 day a week we would like drive 40 minutes to get to soft surface, but everything else was done on the roads.
Yeah.
And I could really tell a difference. And
Oh,
so I ended up
interesting.
doing a 3 week taper because I was starting to feel like pretty banged up from all the pounding that my body just wasn't used to. And so that was kind of interesting, but then I feel like it did leave me a little bit flat on, like, going into race week. I never felt like I got that pep back.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I think I over tapered a little bit because I was concerned about the pounding. And so that was kind of interesting. Obviously, like, I'm someone that thrives in my routine. So being out of my routine in Orlando, and like being on vacation, except for like in peak training and all these things, isn't necessarily like my version of an ideal, pre-race sort of thing. But um, I think it was kind of our best bet.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons being is that all of the germs that are at school right now,
Yeah.
having kids out of school for those last couple of weeks allowed us to stay healthy that whole last month, which I know was a really big challenge for so many of the athletes.
Oh,
And so that was like something that was very stress reducing. But for me, I like my own bed. I like our routine. I like being home with like my usual stuff, running my usual routes. And so that did pose a little bit of a challenge that I didn't necessarily like love, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so many of us runners are wired that way. Like, we like our structure. And yeah, I remember seeing on Instagram, I think it was your peak week, and, like, you were going to Disney and doing all those things. I was like amazed. I was like, she's probably running, a peak like 100 and something. Well, I don't know. What did you peak? I mean, you were running high
I
miles.
peaked at 96.
That's pretty high. Like that's high for you, right?
Yeah,
Because
that
you
is
do a
high
lot
for
of,
me. I only do singles. So that's without any doubles. And I find my happy spot with kind of everything else that I'm doing is kind of like 80, 85.
Mhm. And
So
again, I
it was
love
just,
that you know that about yourself and you don't look and
yeah,
be like, well, so-and-so is running 130 miles a week, you know, and that you don't
exactly.
do the doubles and like, you know, what's good for you.
Yeah, if I have extra time, I focus on recovery. So that's, sitting in the Normatec boots or doing a little like shake out in the pool sort of thing,
Mhm.
um, doing some mobility or bands, foam rolling or using the R8 or something. So I tend to, I do my run in the morning and then I kind of move on for the day,
Right. Yeah.
which definitely has been the right choice for me. It just gives me that recovery that I need till the next run because I spend so much time on my feet chasing my kids
Right.
around, and my kids are very active naturally.
Yeah.
So it's like, they don't care that mom, ran 16
Oh,
miles and
no.
did, 10 by a mile at 10K effort that morning. Like, we're jumping on the trampoline as soon as they walk in the door.
Oh, totally.
And so, I tend to kind of find that balance of to be the present parent, an involved mom that I want to be with my kids, to be able to manage, the rest of my day between
Yes.
working and taking care of the house and doing all that stuff. That 80-ish is really my happy spot. And so I pushed over 90 twice this build up, and I was very proud of that. But it definitely kind of redlines me in
Okay.
all the other areas.
Right.
I'm more fatigued, I'm more irritable, I'm less interested in, doing this
Jumping
stuff
on
with my
trampolines. Yeah.
I'm yes, I'm like, not as kind of a wife.
Yeah.
All those things that
100%.
it's like
Yeah.
I that's not actually who I want to be. So I hit my peak week, I had my in-laws there to help. And I I'm gonna be happy to go back to my happy place in volume
Yeah.
here for a bit. But my body handled it. It held up really well. I felt good that week. I felt very fatigued the following week, which is when I kind of I'm gonna start that taper. And I probably needed to do that one more week. But it just wasn't in the cards for me this time. So a lot of it's just like learning and adapting. It's also been 14 months since I did my last marathon at CIM. And so, kind of trying to remember what I even did
Right.
for that long.
Yeah.
And plus then like I had a 1-year-old, I was still breastfeeding. And so things are just even different at that point. But I'm really proud of the training that I put in. I don't feel like I ended up getting the time goals that I had set for myself in
Mhm.
terms of the marathon and the half marathon this season. But I had a lot of consistency and I stayed healthy while pushing to, a 23 and a half mile long run at 6:20 pace, which is the fastest I've ever averaged for a long run and the longest long run I've ever done. I did that during the 96-mile week, which is the highest week I've had since 2017. So, things like that were just like little victories in
Oh,
training that felt
totally.
really good. I was really proud of myself. I got a lot more consistent with strength training. Um, that was always kind of something since I've had kids that has kind of been on the back burner a little bit. And so I was really committed to doing 2 days a week. And I was successful with that. So there were a couple of things that I was like super proud of. And I know that, being able to healthily get through 2 marathons back to back shows like that strength and fitness that I was able to develop. And now, after taking this break, I'll be able to look ahead at checking off those time goals that I know fitness wise I was there, but like it just never materialized for me.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like so many lessons, so many wins, like you've built like a very good scaffolding for your training looking ahead, balancing all the things that you do. including being a wonderful coach. So I'm so happy to hear that you're feeling good. And thank you so much for taking the time to fill us in on what happened during that week. Like, cannot believe
Can
you.
I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
I haven't shared this one yet. So on Friday, the day I left to go to Mesa, I picked Athens up at school early. Rome doesn't have school Fridays, so he's home with me. But I picked Athens up early on Friday at like 2 because I usually pick him up at 3, but I wanted to see him and have some time with him before I went to the airport. So I pick Athens up, and his teacher goes to get him out of the classroom. And as they're walking back, I hear him telling a story. And he's like, yeah, my mom ran this race in Florida and she pooped 3 times. And I was like, I pooped 3 times, not poop. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. So now I'm wondering how many times he's told that story to people incorrectly. So every time I've walked into school this week, I'm like, oh my God, does that teacher think that I'm the mom that pooped in a marathon? Not once, but 3 times. And so I like kind of want to send an email to the school and be like, just to clarify, like, I don't want them to like every time they see me to think of this, but at the same time, I don't want to make a bigger deal out of it than what it is. So if anyone wants to weigh in on how I should handle this situation, let me know.
It's actually, I'm working on an article today about how to stop pooping while running. No joke. Because I have an athlete who is struggling with that. So that is a real problem. I feel like you should set the record straight, because it's just gonna, every time you're talking to the teacher, you're gonna be wondering, like, is she thinking of me as the mom who poops her pants? Or
Exactly. And I was like, I mean, thank God it wasn't that. I would much rather puke than have that happen. But then when I finished the marathon at Mesa and I got back, I was like, Mom, did you puke again? And I was like, nope, I didn't. He's like, good job. I'm glad you just jogged this time, so then you didn't have to puke. Thanks, buddy.
Yep. I just jogged.
So
26.2 miles at a sub 6 minute.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So
I love it.
yeah.
Kids always humble us, always put it in perspective. Oh my goodness.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, on that note, yeah, you're like, thank you for making it like seem so much better that I wasn't pooping my pants the entire time, but instead I was holding back vomit.
Yes, I feel eternally grateful now.
Right. I love that. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing your story. And since you are my coach, we'll be in touch later.
Awesome.
Thanks, Neely.
Can't wait. Have a good day.
You too.